Tonight's show is brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate it. Boy, do we have quite a bit to talk about. Of course, the Atlanta Braves were able to take the win today through no help of the bullpen, I must say. Spencer Schwellenbach took care of business. 9 innings pitched, only gave up 5 hits, and on top of that, only gave up 2 earned runs. The Braves' offense showed up as well, so we got to thank them for that. Michael Harris with a bomb, Ronald Acuna with a bomb, so plenty to be happy about today. The Braves taking the win, not only in today's game, but also in the series against Milwaukee as a whole. For anybody out there still holding out hope for this team, me included, that's a nice change of pace. That's a nice, at least, start to what we hope could be a turnaround for this season. But there's no doubt that this season has been tumultuous. I mean, this season has not gone as I would have thought, as I guarantee how you would have thought, and probably not how the team thought either. I think that, the more I've sat and contemplated what's going on with this team, most of the season's been pretty hard to watch. I think we can all agree there. But the longer I've thought about it, the more it seems to me like this is a byproduct of the Braves not being very active in the offseason, not going after the guys that could potentially help them. I mean, the A.J. Minter lack of making a move there still sticks in my head, because how could you let a guy walk for less than $20 million to your division rival, no less, when you need bullpen help, specifically left-handed bullpen help? And he's a guy who's been with the team for a long time. He's never worn another uniform. Now he's wearing the uniform of the New York Mets. Yeah, it's tough. I still think that the luxury tax has a lot to do with it. I think the Braves clearly did not want to go over the luxury tax, which is easy to be angry about as a fan. That said, I understand it. I understand why they did it. It's for the better overall ability to make moves going forward into 2026 and beyond. But for 2025, it sure sucks. There's no way around that. It is not a fun time to be a Brave fan. At least that has been the case for April, May, and thus far into June. Now, that's not to say that, turnarounds aren't possible. We've certainly seen our fair share of turnarounds in Braves country. We saw 2021. We saw 1991. We've seen turnarounds before, but I think that, the Braves are certainly behind, right? They're not where they need to be. They're not where we want them to be. And when you look at where the Braves are right now, it seems out of reach, because right now, if you were to go to the standings, which I'm about to go to right now, just to make sure nothing's changed, but if you were to go to the standings of the NL East, you would see that the Mets are atop it by 5 games over the Phillies. The Nationals are behind them at 12.5 games. The Braves are 14.5 games back of the winning the division. Now, again, not to say they couldn't come back, but it's a tough sell to me that they win the division. And I don't want to say that because, look, a large part of my viewership depends on whether or not the Braves are doing well. But I have to be honest. I'm looking at mathematically, it just seems very improbable. Right now I'm looking that, if the season ended today, what would it look like? And the Braves are not your wild card series matchups. Is this recent? Yeah, this is not recent. This is last year. I didn't think that was right. If the season ended today, short way to put it is the Braves aren't in the playoffs. That's the shortest way to put it. They're not in the playoffs, and it's not close. 14 and a half games back in the division. I assume they're at least 7 to 9 games out of the wild card period. Again, not a fun place to be. That all said, there's been a lot of talk about changes to the coaching staff, a lot of talk about just the organization in general. Should we make a change at general manager? Should we make a change at the on-field manager? What should the Braves do? Here's what I would say. I don't believe that there's going to be a change this year. I don't believe that we're going to see the Braves make a move getting rid of any of the coaches we currently have. Not that Kevin Seitzer is one of them, but you get my point. A lot of, I miss these guys, right? Ron Washington and EY. So, I mean, we can all point fingers at the coaching staff and all that, but at the end of the day, I think this falls primarily on the players. I think if you want to blame anybody, it's tough for me to blame Snit. And as much as I am an Alex Anthopoulos fan, and I am, for all of what he's done with the Braves so far, I'm a little displeased with the way this season has gone. That's not to say that I completely blame Alex Anthopoulos either, because truth be told, Alex Anthopoulos has to operate within a certain parameter, just as Brian Snitker does and just as anybody does within a budget. So it's hard for me to blame him either. To me, you can blame ownership, you can blame the players. It's really just a bad situation altogether, and I genuinely hope we can turn it around. But for right now, it is not, like I said, it is not a fun place to be. And I believe that the Braves at some point are going to turn this around and make a run. Now that's going to make it tough to win the division, but I think they could turn it around and potentially compete in a wild card spot. I do think that, and we'll have to just see what happens there. When we return, we're going to talk about Craig Kimbrel. We're going to talk about the way that went down, and I'm going to give you my thoughts just on him getting called up and DFA'd within 24 hours. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC the roof cabin and pro safety discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payment for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $12,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox, the compact SUV with high-tech features. Discounted up to $5,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
All right, let's talk about Craig Kimbrel. This was, of course, a major announcement last week that the Braves were finally bringing up Craig Kimbrel, who had been in the minor league system all year long. And for a lot of Braves fans, this was kind of the first time you maybe have seen Kimbrel. Of course, he had a short stint in Double-A down here in Columbus. He then went to Triple-A in Gwinnett. He looked good in the minors. He had a 2 ERA through 18 appearances in both Double-A and Triple-A, primarily in Triple-A. And, really the only knock on him was his velocity. He was sitting around 92, 93 miles per hour. Maybe it got up to 94, but that was the biggest knock, is that, the velo is a question mark. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised when they called him up, not because I didn't think he could do it, but because of the velo. I was concerned about the velo. And I was concerned on how that would play at the major league level, especially long term. Well, they call him up. He throws one inning where no runs were scored. He did give up a hit. He picked off a runner. I want to say Sean Murphy threw one runner out, caught him stealing. And then he struck out the final batter. I thought it was a decent appearance. I didn't think it was, what rookie Craig Kimbrel would look like, but I told you prior to this outing that I didn't think that would be the case. I didn't think Craig Kimbrel was going to be what Craig Kimbrel used to be. I was correct, as anybody could have predicted. What I did not predict was that the Braves would DFA him a day after. And this sent a lot of you guys into outrage, and I would argue rightfully so. And I wasn't happy about it. Like I said, Kimbrel came down here for Double-A. Here's his appearance right here. You can watch some of the film. This is one of the first of the 3 appearances he made at Double-A. And I'll tell you, he looked good. He may not be what he used to be, but he definitely could perform. And for me, my biggest question is if you call him up purely to see what he's got, or you're mad that he's, it's not good enough. This is exactly what he was doing at the minor league level. This was not a surprise to me that he looked the way he did, that he didn't throw as hard as maybe they were looking. Everybody knew where his velocity was sitting. It wasn't a surprise to those of us that were around. So I'm a bit surprised that it was a shocker to the Braves. And I don't think that's what it was. I think it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the 6 or 7 runs given up the day before to lose 11-10. It was definitely a knee-jerk reaction. It got the fans talking about something else other than the Braves' terrible record and season so far. I'm a bit upset just with the story this has turned into, because I don't think the Braves had any ill intent by calling Craig up and by releasing him later. I'm sure there was a conversation there that, Kimbrel, probably knew that this would be a short stint. There were people talking at one point about, Craig Kimbrel may just want to retire as a Brave, and he kind of told the Braves, look, I understand, but I just want to, and I don't think that at all, because if that were the case, I don't think he would have elected free agency and signed with the Rangers. But here we are. And for me, as shaky as the bullpen has been this year, what harm would it have done to just leave Kimbrel there? The reasoning is that the Braves needed immediate help in pitching, and Kimbrel would have been unavailable for the next day. That's the reasoning. To me, it just seems like poor planning, and it doesn't seem like the front office that I am familiar with over the past couple of years. The front office that I used to see didn't make moves in a knee-jerk reaction, and certainly didn't make moves this public. I'm a bit disappointed in the way this was handled, and I wish that we could have a do-over, because the biggest thing to me is you couldn't let him, I hate to say let him fail, but you couldn't let him have 1 or 2 more appearances, maybe at home, maybe just 1 home appearance. That would have been nice for the fans. It would have certainly left a better taste in everybody's mouth, because this just feels like we got robbed. And, James McCann has since come out vilifying the Braves. By the way, McCann is currently in the Braves minor league system, I believe in AAA as a catcher. Basically saying, look, this is a Hall of Famer. What I'm telling you, that it should not have been this. It basically angered a lot of people in the minor league locker room, a lot of the veterans, within the minor leagues. And look, I don't know who it maybe ticked off at the major league level. I just thought it was a bit rushed and a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and it just doesn't seem like the front office that I think we all know. I've always, kind of blindly trusted Double-A, giving him the benefit of the doubt, and that's because the World Series win, and especially the trade deadline that went with it, kind of earned you some grace. This year has tested that quite a bit, and this Craig Kimbrel situation kind of pushes that further. There's a guy I watch on YouTube here. A lot of you guys probably have seen him as well. David Sampson, former general manager of the Miami Marlins. It's an interesting guy to listen to because he gives you kind of the perspective of a general manager. Even though he's not directly in those shoes, he's likely been there before. He spoke on this, and he basically said that, look, Kimbrel definitely knew. He definitely knew that this could be a one-day thing. He knew this could be a 3-day thing, but he likely knew that it wasn't going to be a long-term staying power. But if that was the case, I think what rubs everybody the wrong way is the way it was presented. The way it was presented was Kimbrel's so happy to be back. Here's his 3-year-old son who loves being here. Kimbrel's happy to be wearing the A on his hat. All is well, right? That's the way it was presented, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a homecoming of a guy who, I'll be honest, when I was coming up, when I was, a teenager, Kimbrel was it. Kimbrel was the guy, if you're looking for a reliever. And there's a very short list of people at that time who carried the weight of a Craig Kimbrel. When B.J. Upton got traded, when Justin Upton got traded, it was like, okay. When Craig Kimbrel got traded, that's when I went, oh, this is what we're doing, right? That was the one that stung a little, especially seeing him win a World Series later with Boston and having a Hall of Fame career and all of that. He's done most of that out of a Braves uniform. He's the all-time Braves saves leader, and he got treated like this. We'll never know what happened behind closed doors. It very well may have been, friendly, and I'm sure it was. But I just wish it was handled differently. I wish the Braves were in a spot where it could have been handled differently. I'm not sure that they were, and I'm not accusing anybody of making a mistake. But to me, this just seems like a missed opportunity to do something really great. If you're not going to have a winning season, which as of right now is not the case, it would have been nice for the fans to get something with Craig Kimbrel, because in my mind, back in the early days of Kimbrel, he had a guy named Billy Wagner who's going into the Hall of Fame this year, who mentored him in his final season as an Atlanta Brave. It would have been nice to me to have seen Kimbrel do the same. That doesn't fall on the Braves. That falls on the shoulders of Craig Kimbrel. He's got to live up to expectations. What does fall on the Braves is they didn't give him the opportunity to meet those expectations. He went out. He didn't have the greatest inning, but who on the Braves has had great relief appearances here lately? I'm just saying, I think this could have gone a lot of different ways, and unfortunately it went the worst way possible. When we return, we're going to get to your comments, and then we're going to get out of here. So, guys, make sure to get those in. Remember to like the video. Certainly does help us get this to a larger audience. Remember to subscribe if you have not already, as well as hitting the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything we have going on here at On Deck.
In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika. New GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. GMC Terrain with a roomy cabin and pro safety, discounted up to $7,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile. In 2025, we're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs, discounted up to $12,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox, the compact SUV with high-tech features, discounted up to $5,000 off. Enjoy the new year with no payments for 120 days. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. We got a super chat from a good friend of mine, Jonathan Roberson. He says, series win. Where are we on the worry meter? We're still pretty high on that worry meter. If there's a worry meter and there's a low to a high, we are still bleeding over the high marker. We are still very much on the worry meter. And when you get so high on the worry meter, you start to get a little indifferent, right? A lot of Braves fans tend to, well, that's the season. I'm walking away. I've heard it from quite a bit of them. I don't do that because I have a show that depends on it. I try to be as positive as I can, but you have every right as a fan to be frustrated right now. A lot of times you tune into games, it doesn't seem like hitting is on, doesn't seem like pitching is on, doesn't seem like fielding is on, which is, to me, the biggest one of all. It's like, how? This team has been so good at fielding for so long, and we're making casual errors. A lot of people have pointed out Austin Riley. Ozzie Albies booted one the other day that's just not like him. But this long stretch of just mediocrity is unusual. It's very unusual, and I hope it turns around sooner rather than later. Let's go ahead and get to the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate it. Oh boy, what a perfect name for this episode. Oh boy says, I think the only way to win is for the starters to go old school and throw complete games. You might be on to something. I kind of said today when they left him in, it's like, well, they're seeing what we're seeing. Maybe the longer leash has been earned, and look, obviously it comes down to pitch count, it comes down to workload and all that, but yeah, right now, if there's a pitcher that can throw a complete game as frankly undependable as our bullpen has been, and on top of that, with as few options as we have, the longer that the starters can go, the better. 5 innings may not cut it if you want to win. That's kind of the way I feel. Oh boy goes on to say, seeing a complete game these days is like seeing an inside the park home run. I mean, yeah, it's like seeing a triple for sure. It's a rarity. I remember it was a big deal when Fultonevich threw a complete game around 2018, 2019. I was there for that, actually. But I remember that was like a big deal. Forget no-hitter. Forget perfect game. We're good with just finish the game. That'd be great. The bar has been lowered, and I would tell you a lot of the old guard is not happy about that. They don't like that about the game now, and I tend to kind of agree with that. I wish that we could circle back to some aspects of the former game. Like, obviously, you don't want anybody getting hurt. You don't want anybody losing their career because they decided to go throw, a lot of games in a row. Like, that's not what I'm suggesting at all. But there is something to maybe don't throw as hard. Maybe you throw for reps and not for exertion. Less exertion, more repetition. As my good buddy Leo Mazzoni would say. That's just the way things used to be, and I certainly hope that we can get to that. By the way, guys, I just dropped something in the chat. I want you to be aware of it. It's a link to our latest interview, and I actually just pinned it as well, but it's a link to our latest interview. Guy named Doug Flynn. You've seen him on the channel before. Former Cincinnati Red, former New York Met. But let's focus on the Reds. He was a 2-time World Series champ with the Reds, a Gold Glove winner, very knowledgeable guy about the game of baseball, a good friend of mine too. Just put this together, talked to him a while back. Basically, we talked about the Hall of Fame and Pete Rose. It's an interesting conversation. He talks about who Pete Rose was. after we get done with the stream, I think that'd be a great thing for you guys to just go check out. Really would appreciate that. It's 25 minutes, but it's 25 minutes of baseball, and I think you'll enjoy it. Mousepad. I got you right here, Mousepad. Profar will be available soon. I wonder if he can bring some spark to the team. He better. I think the best case scenarios for Profar are this. He comes back and brings a spark, like you said, and the Braves either decide to keep him or to trade him, which I wouldn't blame them on either right now. Or he comes back and it's just kind of moved on from. We've just, kind of left it behind us. Those are the two scenarios that, I think make the most sense. Z Corp Alpha says, just make the wild card. One Ron says, did Spencer steal Spencer's powers? They're two different sets of powers. One of them's velo, one of them is, craftsmanship, I guess. Spencer Schwellenbach, I mentioned Leo Mazzoni. Spencer Schwellenbach is Leo Mazzoni's favorite pitcher. The reason is he doesn't waste any time. He goes after hitters. And, he doesn't try to blow it past anybody. He just pitches. He is a pitcher, quintessential pitcher. And he's Leo Mazzoni's favorite currently in the Braves rotation. So if Spencer Schwellenbach's out there, you have a fan of Leo Mazzoni, I'll tell you that. Mass Boost says, I don't know what happened to his velo, talking about Craig Kimbrel, of 93 to 94 before he got called up, but he only threw 90 to 92. Like I said, well, I'll tell you what happened. He threw the first couple, and they went wild on him, and he couldn't locate, so he brought it down to 90 and 92, and he was effective with it. But that's just, to me, that doesn't disqualify you as a pitcher just because you throw 90, 92. Tom Glavine threw 90, 92. John Franco probably threw 86. So we're getting to a time where guys can't have long careers on the mound anymore because everybody wants them to throw 1,000,000 miles an hour. Z Corp Alpha says, I think Craig wanted to sign with another team. I don't think so. I think he had the opportunity. That's likely why they brought him up, because there was the clause in his contract that if he was to be offered a major league deal, the Braves would have to bring him up to the major leagues. Well, they did. They didn't like what they saw. They moved on. He immediately signs with the Rangers. So that's what happened. I just think it's a waste. To me, it's just a waste. As little resources as we have in that bullpen, I just think it's a waste. I could be wrong. I'm certainly not an expert, but that's just the way I view it. And the reason I view it that way is I've been given this lens to look through of what Alex Anthopoulos has done over the past 5+ years of, we're going to attack everything with purpose. And to me, the Craig Kimbrel thing was done completely unpurposefully. It just, we're going to go do it. And I just find it to be a waste. That's just my opinion. One Ron says, is there any truth to the $2 million that the broadcast said Kimbrel got from the Braves as a thank you? I don't know where he saw that, but I believe that he probably has it in his contract that if he was to be called up to the major leagues, he'd get a $2 million, payday, as a lot of those guys do. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't know. I'm not completely knowledgeable on the contract itself. But, he was called up to the major leagues for a day. It wouldn't surprise me if they sent him on his way with $2 million. And as frustrated as I am, it's hard to be mad about a guy who's making $2 million to pitch an inning at the major league level. So it's hard to be too upset about it. Lee Carter says, I hope Braves fans stop going to the games until they get good pitching. You know what? I agree with you. But here's what Braves fans need to do. Forget going to the games. Just come here. Just come watch the videos. Come be a part of the live streams. We'll talk about all the nasty stuff going on at the park right here. You don't have to spend money on a ticket. You don't have to do any of that. You just got to come here and watch the videos. That's just me. Let's see. Mass Boost says, what's wrong with their pitching? Schwellenbach was great today. Well, I mean, the bullpen's definitely a problem. But, I don't think it's the only issue. I mean, like we talked about in the last stream, a lot of people got up in arms about me saying that I thought the bullpen was the biggest issue. I would like to take a second and clarify that. The bullpen is the biggest issue. It's the biggest issue that we can actually solve. Because the offense, unless you want to completely dismantle the team, the offense you pretty much have to live and die by. Outside of getting Profar back and outside of replacing Nick Allen, are you going to get rid of Riley? Probably not. Are you going to get rid of Albies? Probably not. You're not going to get rid of Olsen. Catcher, you're pretty much locked up on unless you wanted to trade Murphy for pitching, or Baldwin for that matter, which I hope they don't. You're not going to trade Acuna. You're not going to get rid of Ozuna if you want to win. You're not going to want to get rid of Michael Harris. You kind of just have to wait for those guys to come around. They're a problem right now, which obviously this excludes today's 6 runs, and they've had games where the bullpen just completely blew it open. But I would say that the Braves, the problem that can be solved is the bullpen. That's the thing you can trade for and get immediate help if it's available. Otherwise, you're pretty much locked into these long-term contracts. Starting pitching, you can kind of fix. You cannot fix the problems right now with the offense, not unless you want to trade one of these guys who's on a long-term deal, which, as frustrated as a lot of the fans are, I don't believe that's really where anybody wants to go. You want to complain about it. I want to complain about it. But you don't want to get rid of them because we all know that they are better than the way they are playing right now. Now, at the end of the season, if you want to talk about a new hitting coach, if you want to talk about, new fielding coaches, if you want to, okay, we can go there, but I don't know that mid-season it's really going to do anything. A lot of people, have pointed out, other teams that have fired coaches, and it kind of led to, winning later. Sure, I just don't see the Braves doing that. I don't think Snit is on the hot seat. Well, he may be, but I don't think we'll ever really know it. I think it'll be a quiet, meticulous process that will not be public, that will be basically he will retire. That's what will happen. Probably at the end of this season, which may have been the plan anyway. And I don't have any insider knowledge on that. I'm telling you because he's, isn't he like close to 70 years old? I mean, it's a good time to do it. He's had a lot of success. He doesn't owe anybody any explanations. I'm not the first to speculate on this. David O'Brien speculated on this prior to the season. There's that. But to me, the problems that the Braves have hitting-wise are right here. It may be pitching-wise too, but the talent is there offensively. There's no doubt there. I mean, we've seen what they've done. You could better yourself at shortstop. You could obviously get Profar back. You could replace Profar. But if you want to really improve the team, right now you got to focus on bullpen. You got to live and die by your offense. Right now we're dying. Hopefully we're living by the end of the season. But you got to live and die with those guys. Your bullpen, your starting pitching, you can kind of assist with. I think one of the biggest problems with the bullpen is the fact that you took Grant Holmes from the pen and you're primarily using him as a starter. I said that from the beginning of the season. I didn't like that. To me, that seemed like a cheap way out. It also seemed like a waste of the tool that is Grant Holmes. He's great for a spot start. Also, while we're talking about starting pitching, we're talking about Schwellenbach. How about Bryce Elder the other day? Just pulled 8 innings out of his rear end and looked like an all-star again. So he can do that. We we might be talking about something. Unfortunately, though, he later lost that game. So not through his own fault, but through the bullpen. Again, the bullpen is the biggest problem on the team right now. If you want to address something at the deadline, make it the bullpen. That's my take. Matthew says, Tyler, I don't like the Kimbrel DFA either, But from what former Marlins GM David Sampson said, Kimbrel knew he was getting DFA'd after they called him up already. They supposedly agreed to it beforehand. I know. I know all that. I just think it's stupid. Like, even if Kimbrel knew about it, I don't know that he got done dirty or, what's in the thumbnail. I don't know if that's fair, but I just think it's dumb. I just think the whole thing, it's like you could have made that anybody. You could have called up Hayden Harris from AA and put him up there, let him throw an inning and send him back down without even DFAing anybody. Because, you could have called up any arm from the minors. Instead, you call up the future Hall of Famer, the guy who has the most saves in your franchise's history, to DFA him a day later. I think it's stupid. That's just me. Sergeant Gibby, star of iCarly, I believe. The team has errors in almost all of Schwellenbach's starts. Yep. The fielding is just not good. Matthew, Tyler, do we even know who the closer is now that Pierce Johnson blew his last save opportunity too? I need to know for my fantasy team. I have no idea. I have no idea. You know what? I would go... I think it's going to rotate. It's probably still Pierce, but I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, Mass Boo says it perfectly. Closer by committee right now. One Ron says Schwelly was on fire tonight and he didn't lose 2-1. Yeah, thank goodness. Let's see. Mass Boost. The bullpen hasn't been the biggest issue as they were above average in the 94. They've been above average, which is 6% of... Okay. Look, like I said, the offense is a problem. The offense very well may be the biggest problem in terms of winning games, but it's not the biggest problem that you can solve. It's a problem, again, that you kind of have to live and die with. You have to win in spite of your offense sometimes, which sucks. There's no way around it. But to me, like I said, I mean, what's the option, Mass Boost? I mean, is the option to trade Michael Harris, Matt Olson, and Austin Riley for 3 other All-Stars? I mean, what are prospects? I mean, are we... I think the question becomes, are we in rebuild mode again? Are we back to 2013, 2014? Is that where we're going? I don't think so. I don't think that. I've heard the speculation about that. I don't think that's the case. The bullpen may have been really good at the beginning of the year. That said, Raisel Iglesias has completely fallen off the face of the earth. Daysbel Hernandez is hurt. A lot's changed with the pen. They're not that great. They have been questionable, to say the least. Because, look, I mean, let's be honest here. You guys watch the games as well as I do. When you're watching the game and the starter comes out, let's say he's leading by 2. Doesn't matter who it is. Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach. Doesn't matter. Spencer Strider. It does not. Let's just say they're up by 1 or 2. You know that if they have 3 or 4 innings to cover, and you know who they are, I'm talking about the bullpen, you're going watching the TV. You're going, oh, how are they going to screw this up? How are they going to falcon this one? That's what you're looking at it like, right? So don't tell me the bullpen isn't either as big of an issue as the offense, or I still think it's the biggest problem. Because your offense is going to be questionable some days. Your offense is only going to put up 1 or 2 runs, right? Your pitching has to on any championship team, your pitching has to carry the load. And right now, starters are doing everything in their power. Schwelly showed it today with 9 innings. But your bullpen has been so questionable and so rocky. There's not a guy that you can really turn to and go, yep, we got it. It's over. We don't have that guy right now. And I don't think we have him in the minors. To me, the only way to solve the bullpen is by trade or by the end of the season going out and signing. The Braves also told you that the bullpen was a concern when they almost signed Jeff Hoffman to a 3, 4, or 5 year deal or whatever they were going to do. They knew that it was a problem. I don't think they knew it was quite as big as a problem as they thought. And look, like I said, the offense, it's going to be hit or miss some days. The offense is an issue, but I don't think that it's as big of an issue as the pen. That's just me. As Vision Music Works points out, yes, how are we going to falcon this? That's my mindset with the Braves bullpen right now, is how are we going to falcon this? And you know what I'm talking about. Every Sunday, for the majority of our lives, it's how are we going to lose this one? Right? We're all friends here. That's Atlanta sports. How are we going to lose this one? We've seen it play out a lot. Much love to the Falcons. I'm looking at a Michael Vick helmet up there. Much love to the Falcons, but that's the truth, okay? That's how it's been watching the Braves, right? How are we going to mess this up? I hate that mindset. I absolutely hate that mindset. But it's like, all right, are we going to pull this through? And right now, just kind of is what it is. Matthew says, I think Snicker might stick around one more season because that will officially give him 50 years as a Brave. You're not wrong. You may very well be right. I don't know that he cares. I think he can get 50 years as a Brave as an advisor too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because it's not like he did 50 years as manager of the Braves. He did 50 years with the Braves. So a lot of ways they can do that. It really may not be up to Snit. His contract's up at the end of the year. So it very well just may be Snit, it's been a pleasure. We'd like to move you into a senior advisory role. And, we love you. You're a Braves Hall of Famer and we're moving on, right? So that may be how it goes. But, Ian says, name one guy coming out of the pen that you truly trust. Maybe Dylan Lee. Maybe that's your closer. Whoever was asking about fantasy baseball. Dylan Lee. That's my pick. Good pick. I like that. Vision Music Works. Look for me directing the anthem with my elementary chorus Saturday. There will be a flyover during the anthem to celebrate the Army and Flag Day. That's awesome. So Vision Music Works is probably going to be on the field. That's great. Vision, my email. If you get any video of it, shoot me a video of it. And I very well may play it on my next stream. So maybe you can show your kids all that stuff. Maybe that'll be cool. No, I'll skip one. Blake says, Alex's decisions and non-decisions of the last few years have ended the window and put us back in a 2014 time frame. Yes, it's coming. You might be right. I don't know. I don't know if I'd completely blame Alex. A lot of people like to blame Snit, right? You've heard me on here defend Snit like he's my own son, right? I've defended Snit over a lot the past few years. I have friends who have a vendetta for Snit's job, right? And I'm sure we all do in one form or another. But a lot of people like to go after Snit. A lot of people are going after Double A these days. It is not lost on me who both of those guys are. Snit, we just talked about it. It's about to have 50 years with the Braves, more than that in baseball. Alex Anthopoulos almost single-handedly won a World Series from an organization standpoint, just from the trades in 21. He knows his stuff. I think a lot of this, if you want to blame anybody on we're not the Dodgers and we're not the Padres and we're not New York or the Phillies, you can blame ownership. Alex is told a plan, right? He has to present that plan to ownership who has to sign off on the money spent. And right now there is a clear, we're not crossing the luxury tax line. And the Braves are right here. So there's not a lot to really work with. I think, you mentioned the window. I think it might be closed, but I don't think it's a long window. I don't think we're in rebuild mode because the whole point of the rebuild was so that you had a 10-year contract to Acuna, a 10-year contract to Riley, a 10-year contract to Olsen, a 7-year contract with Albies. That's the whole point, are these long-term, team-friendly contracts. And like I said, you live and you die by them. Sometimes they're great. Most of the time they're great. A lot of times they're not. But that's where we're at. The whole point of the 2014 to 2017 rebuild was for that. These are the prospects that we're cashing in on. Now, again, you have to ask yourself, are we there now? I don't think so. I think this is a short-term, bad season. It is what it is. Flush it. Get past the luxury tax. Go spend in the offseason and turn it around for 2026. That's how I see it. A lot of people, I've seen posts about, AA, sell it, sell the team. I'll be patient for 3 years. Let's just start over. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it would be a little knee-jerk to do that. It's just going to take time. It's just going to take time. Let's see. Mass Boost says, can we pitch better? Sure, but can they hit better? Very much so. They were projected to have the fourth best offense with a projected 114 WRC plus. Look, I don't, not arguing with you. I don't think you're wrong at all. And, the offense is an issue. But again, how do we solve it? Do you want to fire the hitting coach? Do you want to sell the team? Or otherwise we're just saying, yep, they suck. To me, it's all right. We're going to have to wait for them to fire it up and be who they're supposed to be, which is frustrating. But that to me is where we have to be. Because otherwise, we're running in circles. To me, the bullpen is the only thing that you're really going to solve at the deadline, unless you want to sign a left fielder and maybe trade Jurix and Profar. Because as much as we would be getting back in Profar, you can't use them in the playoffs, And, we're talking about playoffs, where we're at. But I just don't know that Profar is worth keeping around if you can't use him in the playoffs. And, it is a bit of a conduct issue. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm also the guy who at one point wanted to trade Ozuna. You see how that aged. So, it's tough to say, but that's just kind of my take. Matthew, Tyler, when Reynaldo Lopez... I lost you bad. Hang on a second. Give me just a second. My computer's running slow tonight. I don't know why. Matthew says, Tyler, when Reynaldo Lopez gets healthy, do you think the Braves will consider using him as a closer since he was already a great reliever before they signed him? I don't know that he was a great reliever. He was an okay reliever. I don't know. I think he could still very much be used in the rotation. Because I'm not sold on Bryce Elder, even though he had one good appearance. I'm not sold on that. I think with the loss of A.J. Smith-Shawver, that leans more credence to he's going to be in the rotation. I haven't even thought about it, so I'm kind of contemplating it now. I think it depends where he's at, right? Like if they're more comfortable with him getting one inning of work every day, maybe. But I think he's more useful in the rotation just as much as I think Grant Holmes is more useful in the pen. Whether he's, covering 3 innings or covering 1 inning, having him in the bullpen is a great way to have, to use him for the best of his abilities. And I think Reynaldo's kind of the same way. Blake says, hey, keep my Falcons out of this. I'm not keeping the Falcons out of this. No. Anthony says, bullpen is easier to fix. If we can get a solid and spirited bat and left, that's a good start. Yeah, and look, the series win today was a good start, right? Like, that was enough to rejuvenate us a little and make us go, oh, okay, a little, right? Like, it's not, it's not 10 games in a row or anything, but it's something. And it's after 7 straight losses for, I think, the 3rd time this year. It's a nice change of pace. It's a breath of fresh air, I guess. But like I said, bullpen's easier to fix. In the short term, if you want a long-term fix, sure, go after the offense. But I just don't think so. Ian says the offense has been bad, absolutely, but the pen has been terrifying to watch. Agreed. The projections don't mean anything if they're not playing up to them. Agreed. Oh, Lord. Sergeant Gibby says Sleepy Snit is... Oh, my goodness. We're calling him Sleepy Snit now. We've gone full political. All right, moving on. One Ron says, been watching the Braves since '89. There have been some tough seasons, but this is a tough gig. Yeah, imagine having to get on here and talk about it. Speak about a tough gig. Yeah, it's not fun. I have to tell everybody it's going to be okay. I might have a career in politics after all. I have to take this monstrosity of a season and I have to tell you that it's, in some form or another, it's going to be all right. And it is. I mean, whether it's next year that, they turn it around, they start spending money and all that, I just don't see them wasting it. The problem is that a lot of you guys are looking at it with the Braves are spending a lot of money elsewhere, right? Like the additions to the battery, just you name it, right? All of the money that's being spent that's not on the team. And you're fair to do that, but it is coming from a different budget. It is coming from a different, way of doing things. And after all, it is a business. They do have to make money, and that's the primary goal. As much as that's the case, you also need a winning ball club typically to make money. So I think they're hoping that you guys go no matter what. Matthew says, the reports I read said the Braves wanted Jeff Hoffman as a starter instead of a reliever. I don't know about that. I don't know what report you read, but I didn't see that. The medicals didn't look like his arm could hold up. I don't know. Sergeant Gibby. I am the vendetta. That's pretty good. The bullpen was lights out for the last 3 years. Sad to see the state of it now. If the game got to the 6th with a lead, you had a likelihood of winning the game. Yeah, I remember when it was, Venners and Hansen and Kimbrel and, you're pretty much done, right? And then, come 2021, of course, you have the night shift. And, right now, that's the thing. How many leads do we have where, one-run games that we've lost or blown saves, or you just give me those wins and we're at least in a wild card, Right now, it's just kind of not the case. Terry McGurk is getting some stones tossed at him. Sergeant Gibby says, we need to restock, not rebuild. If we are still below 500 at the trade deadline, this team has to fight the Padres, Giants, Phillies, Brewers, and whoever else for the wild card. Yeah, it's not a good place to be. And, at some point, the Braves are going to have to look around, smell the roses, and go, okay, are we sellers? Are we not buying at the deadline? Because there's a difference in being sellers and not buying at the deadline. Sellers is fire sale. Anybody with any value, get them gone, right? We don't want to pay them. We want to get prospects and, replacement of them. That's fire selling. I don't think the Braves are anywhere near that. No matter how, I don't care if they lose the next 30 games. They're not there. That's not what they are. There's too much capital within the walls. I just don't think that's the case. What I do think is anybody that is on a short-term contract that has value, i.e. a Marcell Ozuna, although his value may be low because of the injury he's battling through. You got him, anybody in the pen that's worth anything. You may be punting on this season in anticipation for coming back next year and really wiping the floor. There's a difference in that as opposed to we're going to get rid of Olsen, we're going to get rid of Riley, we're going to get rid of Harris, we're going to get rid of Acuna, we're going to get rid of Schwellenbach. We're not doing that. I just don't believe in that. I think you're far more likely to see a situation where the Braves decide, Well, we gave it a good shot this year. Let's go ahead and trade away all of our free agents at the end of the year, right? The guys that, we're not going to re-sign. Maybe you bring in Ozuna. You say, look, we'd like to extend you, but if you don't want to do the extension, we're going to need to trade you, right? And that's fair. That's perfectly fair. But if that's not the case, then I just don't see – I don't know. I don't see Alex Anthopoulos doing that either, which may be the right way to go. Because he's so competitive and he thinks, as long as the Braves are somewhat in it, he's always got a shot. I mean, here's the thing. You make it to the playoffs, you got a chance at the dance, right? So it's all about getting to the playoffs, and if you get to a wild card series, maybe that's the way to go. It's tough. It's tough. Sergeant Gibby says, trading Ozuna from DeBrace, Allen, Verdugo, Kelnick, and Bummer. Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty much, you can probably get a decent package for that, believe it or not, because pitching is so hard to come by that anybody with any kind of name value and any kind of ability could very well fetch quite a bit. And that's not a knock on Ozuna. That's more of a knock on the pitching is even a guy like Bummer, Verdugo, short-term contract right there, Ozuna, short-term contract. Those are guys that, in theory, if you got the next year and they're still free agents, you could just sign them right back. So that's just something to consider. Like, that's why they're valuable in a trade market is you're not losing that much. You're losing Alex Verdugo, Marcell Ozuna, Jared Kelnick, Allen, Bummer, basically for the remainder of a losing season. Why would you keep them if that was, if that's where we are, which I'm not ready to say we're there yet. We got another month before I'll be ready to say that. But when that time comes, it makes all the sense in the world to trade those guys away and get back something that could help you next year, right? So Jimenez coming back could be huge. It could be. Anthony says, as for the bats, maybe clear leadership missing in the clubhouse combined with some optimal game plan. We are using some big words, some college level words here. Suboptimal. Man. Yeah, I mean, I don't look. It's a deck of cards ready to fall, right? When the offense isn't hitting, when the pitching isn't pitching, when coaching isn't coaching, frustration grows and it begins to invade every aspect of the team, right? Whether it be the manager, whether it be the culture, whether it be the players, whether it be the offense, whether it be the pitching, everything's going to take a hit. I believe that's why you're seeing the fielding problems right now, because everybody's putting so much pressure on themselves to, do everything right that a lot of times they're doing everything wrong. It's just my take. Ian says, Profar is the perfect two-hole hitter behind Acuna. Maybe. I don't know how to put this. I just have a bit of a bad taste in my mouth with Profar, and I hate to say that. I mean, very nice guy, likable guy. I interviewed him at spring training. I just don't know how I feel about it yet. And it's really nothing to do, it's something, but it's really nothing to do with the roids or the fertility drug or whatever. It's more to do with he can't be used in the playoffs. Like, I know the type of player he can be. We've seen it. We played against him. We saw it in the playoffs last year. Like, we've seen that. It's, if we can't use him in the playoffs, but he gets us there, what good does that really do? I'm still figuring that out in my own head. One Ron says, what are your thoughts on this year's hitting approach? If they keep struggling, do you stick with it, or do you go back to trying to mash more aggressively like they used to? Well, even Kevin Seitzer said that they were all trying to do too much, right? Like, even the former hitting coach said they need to, kind of go back to small ball. But you've kind of, I don't know, because you don't want to completely throw away a philosophy. But to me, philosophies comes with coaching. And the philosophy we're seeing now is the philosophy of Tim Hires. And Obviously, it's not going as he planned, but he's got to get it, in their minds that you don't have to do too much. You just need to, and right now they're struggling. They're struggling. The long ball is definitely their way of winning in 23. But, consistency. We're losing consistency. For example, Michael Harris. And I love Michael Harris. I love everything about Michael Harris. I love his fielding. I think he's got a great bat. I wish instead of going for 30 homers, he went for a 300 average or a 330 average, right? That, to me, is the type of hitter he could be. That is his path to an MVP one day. And I just feel like Ozuna, that's a home run guy. Olsen, home run guy. Riley, home run guy. Everybody else, obviously Acuna, but everybody else pretty much needs to just be trying to get on base. And a lot of times we're leaving guys on base. So everybody feels like they got to hit a homer to score. And it just shouldn't be that way. One Ron makes a good point. Says, I would just like to find out what the hitting approach is. Yeah, I mentioned Michael Harris, and I'll tell you, the more at-bats I watch of Michael, the more, yeah. 21-run losses is crazy. Most of them low-scoring losses, too. Yeah, they've been in every game. They're not a bad team. It's just the record book makes them a bad team, and it's really unfortunate. Oh, a lot of you guys in the chat tonight. Let's see what we got. Ian says, by the end of next weekend, we'll have a clear view of this team. We sweep the Rockies and Marlins and win the Mets series. We're right back in the mix. Yeah. You're quite the optimist. I said optimist, like I'm talking about Optimus Prime. You're quite an optimist. I actually had that conversation with my dad earlier, just talking about, well, we do got the Rockies next, and the Marlins, which, look, the Marlins are the only team behind us, and we don't got to beat by much. So, hopefully we can win that series. Because last place would sure be a sad place to be. Blake says the good news is the NHL is coming back to Atlanta in Forsyth County. So the Thrashers return. We say the Braves attention on them for a few years. Maybe. I'm not a big hockey guy. Never been my thing. We have hockey here, and I go cover it, but it's not really my thing. Sergeant Gibby. Alka-Seltzer fizzed away. He's gone. Tim Hires has him out-feebled. Oh, a Frank the Tank reference tonight. You've gone feeble. Blake Newsom, Michael Harris is literally no discipline. He's Jay Hay 2.0. Hey, put some respect on Jay Hay's name. It's World Series champion. I think Harris still got time to figure it out. Obviously the potential was always there. To come up straight from AA to, I think he should have won a Gold Glove by now. I'll stick with that. Defensively, he's enough of a player to be in the majors. But you're right. The plate discipline's got to improve. You're absolutely right. I hope that it's coming sooner rather than later. Ian Grinnell says the number of times we strike out looking with runners in scoring position is infuriating. Yeah, Riley struck out on a pitch the other day, a couple days ago. I was watching it. It was like right down the middle. And I'm like, nobody's going to say anything. It's just amazing. You could probably see my frustration building. I'm holding it back. But what's amazing to me about it is this team, which in 2023 set all these records and did all this craziness that's just unbelievable. 2024, they're hurt, right? I got on here countless times and told you, look, guys, I know they're not playing well, but they're hurt. They're hurt. They're hurt. They're hurt. That's the reason. That's why they're hurt. They're injured. What team could have all these injuries and still play like the way? And I'll defend that. The fact they made it to the playoffs last year is still unbelievable. But right now, that's not what it is. They're just playing bad, and There's no way that to defend it. Oh, Lord. If this team is out by August, would you be willing to send him down and figure it out in Lawrenceville? Because it's clearly not happening here. Possibly. I don't know that you're really going to figure it out in Lawrenceville or Columbus. But, I could be wrong. Sergeant Gibby is trying to make me laugh. Sergeant Gibby says, and I quote, the Braves have struck out against the backyardigans. I had to think about how to say that, but I said it. Mass Boo says, Hayward is a very good player for the Braves, above 3 WAR in all but one season with the Braves. Yeah, I think with Hayward getting hit in the face didn't really do him any favors. And I'll say this about Hayward, and I love this story about Hayward. When you look at the 2016 Cubs, there's a lot of names on that roster that stick out. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. I'll even throw in David Ross. Just for the Game 7 home run. We can keep going and keep going. Pitching was great. John Lester, Kyle Hendricks was great. You could really go and go and go on that roster. Hayward is the one that sticks out to me, not just because he's a former Brave. David Ross is also a former Brave. David Ross had the game of his life in Game 7. We all know that story. But some of you may have forgotten, there's a rain delay in Game 7 that I watched live. I've got a couple Braves on the team, and I guess I was about 16, 17 at that time. And I'm watching it. It's 2 a.m, and I'm on my bed, just, the Cubs going to do this? Are the Cubs going to do this? And the rain delay happens, and you're kind of like, oh, my goodness, right? Oh, my goodness. And that's one of my favorite teams that I've ever really seen play. I actually saw them play that year at Wrigley, through a rain delay as well. So it was really cool to see this. But anyway, the rain delay happens. The broadcasters get on there, and right before we're coming back, they say that Hayward has rallied the troops and reminded everybody who they are. And so say what you want about Hayward, but, leader is something that he is. And right now we could use it, Blake Newsom says, Addison Russell, I'm forgetting guys, and I know I'm forgetting guys, but, there were just some great talent on that team. Them and the 2014 Red Sox, or 2013 Red Sox, when they won the World Series. Two of them, I watched, those years, you got to remember, weren't the best years for the Braves. And I kind of became a baseball fan in general those years. Since then, it's been pretty easy to follow along with the Braves. I might have to revert back here pretty soon. But, especially the second half of the season when the Braves were out of it, it was easy to kind of latch on to the 2013 Red Sox. They had Big Papi. I love Johnny Gomes. I have a game-used Johnny Gomes bat somewhere over there. I'm a big Johnny Gomes guy. Loved it when he came to the Braves in 2015. But I'm a big David Ortiz guy. He's up on the shelf too. So Red Sox have always been my American League team. But they were really easy to attach to, just to enjoy watching. Pedroia, just a lot of guys from my childhood that were still going. And really that was, outside of his final season, that was the final big moments for Big Papi, right? So that was cool. But 2016, it was all Cubs for me. To see the 106 years come to an end, or 108, whatever it was, that was cool to me. And ironic that both of those teams were cursed, right? However you want to view it. But they were cursed for 100 years, right? The Red Sox in 2004. That's why I like the Red Sox, was that. I have a ball. I actually have a picture right there. The only Mets piece I own. I wish I could show you. It's Mookie Wilson in 1986 in the World Series. He wrote out the play because it's one of my favorite Vince Scully calls. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it. The reason I have that piece, somebody bought it for me. There's a ball up there signed by Bill Buckner and Mookie Wilson. So I've always been intrigued by the curse of the Bambino, right? And then I got intrigued by the curse of the Billy Goat in Chicago. So you can find teams that you just kind of pick up and run with. Through the years, like the 27 Yankees, the 75, 76 Reds. Hell, I know half of them. But that's kind of my point, right? It's you get to watch all of baseball. And it's easy to be, once your team has been eliminated, normally I'll pick up a team just to watch as a fan. I'll find a team that I just like watching, and for whatever reason. A lot of comments just then. Sergeant Gibby says it's like 27 and 29. 27. I'm tired. It's like 2017 and 2019 juice balls. The 2017 World Series had baseballs flying out. Well, there was something else going in. There was something else going on in 2017, other than just juice balls. They had a little bit more help. I think we all know now. Blake Newsom says, in the Indians clubhouse, Bauer and them spent the whole time complaining about the rain delay and lost their momentum. They had erased a 6-1 lead for the Cubs to still win. Yeah, exactly. Hayward had the opposite effect. Hayward would be great in the clubhouse, says Ian Grinnells, but the dude can't hit and hasn't hit for years. We just don't need another one of those. You might be right. Sergeant Gibby says, I just won't root for the Mets. Phillies, Dodgers, or Stankies. No, I don't root for any of them. The Mets piece is just for the lore. It's not for any practical case. I have one Dodgers piece I'll show you in just a minute. Well, I have two Dodgers pieces, but I'll show you why I got them in just a minute. The Cubs were cursed for banning a guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I'm going to show you these two pieces real quick. First one's right here. Just so we're clear, I know you're all going to make fun of me for having a Dodgers piece in the center, but that's Hank Aaron, and those are all Braves. Just so we're clear, this is the only ball that I think is a Dodger up there. Or, we'll see. But you'll see why. Sandy Koufax. So that's one. That's actually kind of new. I bought that pretty recently. I got to get up to show you this one, but... All right, this is the only other Dodgers piece I own. It is a cap. It's one of my favorites. I actually bought this in Cooperstown at a shop. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to try. It's going to have glare, but it's signed by Al Downing. And if you don't know who that is, Al Downing gave up Hank Aaron's 715th home run, April 8th, 1974. He wrote Al Downing, Aaron's 715th homer, and the date right there. So that is the only two Dodgers pieces I own right there. I have a bunch of red stuff. I have an Orioles piece back there with Cal. I think that's it in terms of like a logo on it. Reds and, Baltimore. I have a Miguel Cabrera helmet, Pirates, but that's pretty much it. So, yeah. Oh, Sergeant Gibby. That's just the beginning. I can assure. Can I show you that other shot? Hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can show you the other side of the room. I don't know if I can or not. Well, look, I think I can. So I can't walk over there, but I can kind of show you. That's just the other half of the room, but there's a whole another 2 or 3 walls. The letter on the left, you'll see a picture that's signed by Jock Peterson on the left, on the top left. That's the letter he wrote, the We Are Those letter, and yes, it is spelled out. That on the right, you'll see Chief blowing fire. You'll see below him a picture of Pete Rose, Tony Perez, Johnny Bench, and Joe Morgan. That's all signed by all 4 of those guys. I also have a baseball signed by all 4 of those guys together. I have a helmet signed by Pete Rose. I got Ozzie Albies cleats. I mean, you hate to brag, but collecting is something I'm good at. I don't even really try anymore. It kind of just happens. But I got jerseys on this wall. Acuna, Chipper, Phil Necro, Miguel Cabrera over here, Bobby Cox over here. There's 2 stadium seats on either side right here, Turner Field in Fulton County, that I'm proud of. So yeah, it's a pretty cool collection. I enjoy it. And at some point, I am going to show you guys everything in here in a video. I got to put that together, but just have not had time. We finally have a studio, but I have not had time to do much of anything. The reason being, the wedding is coming up. 3 weeks away, 24 days, a little over 3 weeks, so 24 days away. We do have a registry. I guess I should tell you guys that. We do have a registry if anybody would like to know. That is out there. But 24 days away. Obviously, when that day comes, I will be leaving the computer at home. We're going on a cruise, and I'm not going to think about the Braves. I'm gonna try to put that out of mind, out of frame, out of mind. So, but yeah, obviously that's coming up, and we're gonna do everything we can to keep you updated before and after the honeymoon. But obviously, as soon as we get back from the honeymoon, it'll be All-Star game time. So I will hopefully be at the All-Star game. That'll at least be a nice change of pace from this otherwise odd season. Ho, hang on. Frank the Tank took BP? No, he didn't. All right, somebody send me a link. You have my Twitter, you have my Instagram. I need a link. Somebody send me a link because I want to see that. Blake Newsom says, does the Fulton County seat give good back support? The Fulton County seat is not as sturdy as the Turner Field. It is also 30 years older. But it's mainly because of the feet. The seat itself, I would say, is arguably more comfortable, but the feet aren't as sturdy. Like when you sit in the Turner Field one, the way it's built onto a metal frame. The Fulton County is just on a pair of seat feet. It's not built into anything solid. So you can kind of easily tilt back and forth. The Turner Field's pretty rock solid. I'll put it to you this way. If I had to put somebody else in a seat, I would put them in the Turner Field seat because I know how to sit in the Fulton County seat, if that makes sense. But no, they're both really cool. And they're both, honestly, when you don't have somebody next to you, they're really not bad seats. Like obviously when you sit in the stadium, it gets kind of, you get kind of locked in. But obviously sitting at home is a little different. Sergeant Gibby, you tagged me on X. Oh, that's you. Okay. I'll follow you back. You know what? We're going to watch this together. We're going to watch this. Well, I got to watch it first. I love Frank the Tank, just so we're clear, but hey, man. He's using all the power in his legs. Get off my boy. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up soon. Anthony says, by any chance, is that cruise passing via Curacao? No. There is no baseball on this trip. I had to make a promise. But no, we're going straight to the Bahamas. I don't know where we're going. And I'll be honest with you, I've never been on a cruise, so this is going to be new for me. But I don't believe we're going through Curacao. Anthony, is that where you're located? You in Curacao? Because there's a lot of good baseball that goes through Curacao. Mass Boost says the MLB draft wasn't a thing until 1965. Koufax played before that. Okay. One Ron says if the Braves are on a run during the honeymoon, you'll be thinking about it. Don't do that. With my luck, they probably would be. You're right. I'm going to be trying to figure out how to stream them on the side of a boat. We'll see how it goes. I'll tell you this, though. One of my buddies got married a couple years ago. I was in the wedding. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. I only got a few of you guys watching at this point anyway. I'll pull it up. I don't care. But he had his wedding, and it was in October. I want to say 2022. I think that sounds right. Anyway, he had it, and the Braves were in the playoffs, and they got eliminated. And I'm in the wedding when they get eliminated. And I am trying my best to not look at my phone to check the score. And boy, oh boy, did that suck. There's just no way around it. I'm looking for that picture. Hang on a second. Well, maybe not. Oh, here it is. Just look at my face. Just look at this. I don't know. Look at that. Yeah. Lost to the Mets, I think, or the Phillies that year. Terrible. Terrible. Oh, Lord. Yeah. Blake, they won 14 straight back in, when they graduated high school, probably around 2019, right? Sounds about right. Yeah, I think so. Guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. We of course do got more content. I want you to go check out that Doug Flynn interview if you can, if you have not already. It is really good. Doug's a hell of a talker. The link is is pinned, so make sure to go check that out. And really would appreciate the support there. It's a great video, great sound bites. We're going to cut shorts from it, but obviously go watch it in full because some of the stories he tells are really powerful about Pete Rose. If you're a baseball guy, it's a good interview. If you just like to listen about baseball stories, it's a good interview. If you just like to hear from good people, it's a good interview. So that's going to wrap up Braves on Deck tonight. Really do appreciate all you guys tuning in. It is not lost on me that we couldn't do this without you. So please continue to support. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Really would appreciate it. And of course, like I said, we're going to be streaming, try to stream at least once a week. We're going to have more content come throughout. But right now we're streaming once a week and trying to get you more videos throughout the week as well. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell for notifications. I know we've had some conversations about some of you guys aren't getting the notifications. I don't know what's going on there. Talk to YouTube. That ain't a me thing. But hopefully we'll get that figured out. Again, thank you all for being here. Really do appreciate it. Obviously, we'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.